Morning from Gold Mine Trail greenhouse. Today we're going to talk a little bit about how you position your greenhouse if you're looking for maximum light transmission and solar. So light, check my notes here real quick, make sure I get everything pronounced right. So the angle of incident equals the angle of reflection. So light transmits most favorably 90 degrees perpendicular to your glazing. So your wall, sunshine, 90 degrees. As on the equator, which is 0 latitude, sun's almost overhead. As you progress further into the United States, Hawaii averages 18 to 22 degrees latitude, depending on what island you're on. Boise, Idaho is about the 40th. Well, up here in Alaska, we are 69 or 64th parallel. So in the wintertime, you want to add about 20 degrees to your latitude to get that angle. And in the summertime, you want to add about 15 degrees. So knowing that light and thermal from the solar goes through at 90, when that angle changes, you get reflection as much as you still get some light going through. So if you take a quick peek on the side of our greenhouse at 64 degrees, we added for our area. So that wall there is pretty close to a 70 degree angle. So as you're setting up your greenhouse, you want to know what your latitude is. You want to take a look at your shortest day of the year, winter solstice, and see where that sun lies. So we're positioned south when the sun is shining, not on this 15-degree day like we have now. The sun just comes past those trees, comes in, and it lights everything up. Other thing you want to consider when you're looking at setting up your greenhouse is whether you're going to use glass or whether you're going to use polycarbonate. So yes, glass lets light transmit through it much better than polycarbonate, but the polycarbonate has some of the insulating qualities that is not present in glass, unless you start to get into the triple pane, something like that. When you are looking at your angle that you're going to have your sunshine come down to go through your glazing, it's got to be pretty close for maximum for glass. With polycarbonate, you can have a little bit of a skew because that's a light diffusing material. And so while the light hits it, it diffuses it, that angle isn't quite as important. So those are just a couple of things to think about when you're looking at where you're going to be planning and setting up your greenhouse. Today we're talking a little bit more on your greenhouse. You've got a set of plans that you're looking at, or you don't have a set of plans, but there's a lot of resources. If you go to your specific area, to your cooperative extension for your university, they know what zone you're in. They will usually give recommendations on what will grow in your area year round. They'll give recommendations on greenhouses, the size, all of that. And don't be afraid to play with those dimensions a little bit. In this link, I'm going to add that this greenhouse was modeled after one that I picked up on the cooperative extension for the University of Chicago. I wanted a full-size door in there, so all I had to do was add some length to their plans. I had to add some width to the plans so that I could get a 3-2 door in there, and it was pretty easy to do. You just got to make sure that when you're looking at your prints, is it set up on 2x4 dimensional lumber or 2x6, because a lot of times they'll give measurements and then it'll be up to you to kind of transpose those measurements into the angles for your corners. Different types of wood we're going to talk about real quick. So on the interior, you could have just regular old dimensional lumber. It's non-treated, it could be painted, it could be stained, but you're probably going to need something, unless you're in a real dry community, you're probably going to need something to help preserve that wood. Your foundation, if it's not concrete, if it's going to be wood, you're going to want some severe weather pressure treated. So as you take a look at this, it has spots where they actually grab it and they inject the preservative into the wood. You can see through the side here of that preservative going down into the wood. This is called severe weather pressure treated. It's usually good for a lifetime. A lot of them have a lifetime warranty. One step up with that is called an outdoor wood. It still has the preservative, but it's usually just dipped or coated. If you look on the end, it hasn't saturated in quite as far as the severe pressure treated, where they actually inject that preservative into the wood. So the areas that you would probably need these are for obviously your foundation, any place that there's ground contact where you want to keep an eye on that moisture and make sure that moisture isn't going to be eating away at the wood. Other thing to think about if you're not doing concrete is your thermal battery. So if you take a look at our greenhouse here, it's elevated and it sank into the hill a little bit. This greenhouse actually sits on almost 4 feet of compacted sand. We went up 2 feet, we put 6 inches of rigid styrofoam insulation, then we buried and continued compacting until we had almost 48 inches of sand. So when the sun, thermal mat comes in there and heats up that thermal mass, long after the sun sets, that sand battery just continues to radiate heat and makes the heater come on that much less frequency. So those are some tips for today on the greenhouse. If you got any questions, throw them in the comments. Be sure and like and share the video, and we'll keep some more coming. Thanks.